listening to Bucs UK TV for episode number 34. Before I get started, I'd just like to remind you all, please come along and interact with us. Click that like button and comment on the video. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And most importantly, hit the bell so that you get notifications when we upload these videos. Also, got to make sure that I give a quick shout out to Bucs Report and thank them for the support of our podcast. I'd like to introduce my co-hosts, David and Gary.
Hi there. This
week, we were lucky enough to nab an interview with the staff writer for The Athletic covering the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Greg Auman. Okay, so we'll dive straight into the questions. Sure. So we'll start just by getting a bit of background on you if we can. We know that obviously you studied journalism at the University of Florida and that you've obviously worked in the Tampa Bay area pretty much most of your career. You've followed obviously USF athletics, you did some high school athletics before that, and then now you're with The Athletic writing about NFL and Tampa Bay. So how did you sort of get into the sports journalism, and how did you get the opportunity, I guess, to go from the athletics to the Bucs?
Yeah, it was neat. I've always liked sports. I've always liked writing. Wrote in high school. I went to high school in Raleigh, North Carolina. Got to work for the paper there, the Raleigh News and Observer. Worked in college, all through college. Wrote for my college paper in Florida. Luckily, Gainesville, you get to string for a lot of different papers. So wrote for the Times. Wrote for a couple of other papers while I was in school, and didn't have any. The St. Pete Times is what it was back then. Didn't have any jobs when I came out of school, so I went to CNN in Atlanta for 2 years. Was there for the launch of CNN-SI when that was a website. I was there for 2 years, and then we moved back down to Tampa, and I've been here ever since. Been here since '99. Was at the Tampa Bay Times for 19 years, and then in 18, just 3 seasons ago, went to The Athletic, and I've been covering the Bucs for The Athletic ever since.
Okay, and obviously, having been in journalism for sort of that length of time, I guess, how has the role changed over the years? How has it sort of changed between, when you started to where you are now, I guess?
Yeah, tremendously. And obviously, the internet and social media are a huge part of that. When I was first at the Times, it's like didn't have a cell phone, had a beeper. I think our regional deadlines were like 6 p.m., where if it happened after that for the regionals, it wouldn't get in the next day's paper. It's one of those wild things where, the internet was certainly was part of what we did in '99 when I came to the Times, but it wasn't like this, get it up right away. Hey, this coach got fired. We have to get something up immediately. It was like, big piece of news. I got to make sure I file something within the next couple hours on that for sure. And then it gradually has moved. In '05, I think, is when I first had a blog. I had a USF blog for the Times. And then you could post things throughout the day, which was great. You might post 3 or 4 things in a day. And it's just kind of ramped up since then. I forget what year I got on Twitter, 08, 09, was kind of early with that. And now, now with Twitter, you're constantly on deadline all the time. So if you get a piece of news, you get an email, you get a text or something, oh, wow, you got to tweet it right away. And somebody had it 30 seconds before you get beat on it and all that kind of stuff. So it's fun, but it's also crazy. It's one of those where if I'm not ever that far from my phone, you'll get a text. Especially now there's all these signings and all these moves and everything being made. You don't want to miss them. So like ideally I can I'm here at my laptop and I can kind of have the phone charging there, but it doesn't charge quite as well on my laptop. So I'll set it over another room to charge. And you kind of have it, where you're listening for that chime to know that, there's notification or a text or something like that. But if you miss it, again, like if you don't check your phone for 10 minutes and you get a text and it's like, they agreed terms with Josh Wells. Okay, I missed that. You get it out there as quick as you can. So it's crazy, and that I don't want to say like a doctor, but we're on call all the time. And it's obviously far less significant than that, but you're always on, if you will. It's hard to have even your days off. You're kind of aware of what might happen and periodically checking. So I think any reporter these days is kind of, unfortunately, kind of stuck on that all the time. There are definitely times of the year when there's not really much that should happen, but there still can be arrests and random signings and all that other kind of stuff. So it just keeps you on your toes.
What's it like, sorry, Marianne, what's it like more engaging with fans now? Because there's a lot of engagement now when you raise a Twitter and people asking you questions and getting insights from you. So what's that side of things like?
Yeah, it's much better for me. I really don't mind that at all. Some people don't like all the interaction. I like it a lot. I feel like it's so much easier to know what people are curious about, what they know and what they don't know. Again, you go back to, like my early newspaper days, like you might get, a snail mail letter in the mail. Hey, I enjoyed your story on January 14th about this. And that was about it. You meet people in person, you get the interaction, but having an email that's open, having Twitter and direct messages, the comments on our stories, The Athletic, you can usually go back and forth with people there. So it's really cool. I feel like I always know, it's like you have that as a reporter, you think you know what's important, what's not important. But if you see that like your readers are constantly asking you about things, we have, the Glazers have once-a-year access with the media. And it's neat. I mean, usually it's an in-person thing, but obviously with COVID, it's just a Zoom today. But like, I feel like somebody in the Zoom, if we have a 15-minute Zoom, I hope will ask about these creamsicle uniforms that could be coming back this fall. Because if I go 2 days without somebody asking me on Twitter if the Bucs are going to wear their creamsicles in the fall, it's a strange thing. So you're just aware of what people are curious about, and it's like that can help you in terms of, hey, this is a guy people are asking me about all the time. I should write more about that guy. Or this guy's kind of prominent, but I feel like everybody knows this story about him. I don't really need to write that again, do I? So I just like that it's just constant feedback. The things that people are curious about should be things that I'm curious about, but I feel like I get to have 100 or not even 100,000 sets of eyes and ears that, again, like social media, it's like you try and follow all these accounts and have notifications, but it's great. And then I'll get a DM on Twitter. It's like, hey, Antonio Brown just posted a video on Snapchat that he's doing this. And I'm like, what, where? What? Oh, thank you. So it's nice. And you can like deputize all your readers to be looking out for you and helping you make sure you don't miss stuff like that. It's a big help that way.
Okay, so just expanding on that, Greg. 12 months ago, the Bucs signed this guy called Tom Brady. So I can only imagine your life was, and every other journalist's life was turned upside down at that point. Since then, obviously, what's happened has happened, and you've written a book, Champa Bay. So at what point did you think this book, Champa Bay, is a possibility? I can write this.
It really happened very late. This is completely new to me. I've written thousands of stories. I've never written a book. And I think when you have a season like this, you always think like, man, this is the kind of season you write a book about. And I'm very much still focused on my day-to-day employment with The Athletic. So it's always one of those where like, gosh, is it okay? Where my boss is okay with that? And it happened remarkably quickly. The company I wrote for is a publisher named Triumph Books. And they do a lot of what they do with these championship books. And it's really neat in that once the championship games are done, and actually they reached me just ahead of that, but so like the week of Green Bay, they reached out and they said, hey, we do championship books. My co-author, Joey Johnston, had been involved when they tried to do a Rays one back in October. And they basically, once the Super Bowl is set, they have 2 books set in motion at the same time. So there's a Chiefs book being written and a Bucs book being written. And if your team loses, you get a small, they call it a kill fee, but it's kind of like, hey, thanks for doing 80% of a book that no longer exists. We appreciate it. Here's some money for your time. And of course, if they win, they make the book and you get more money. Right at that point, there's only two or three more stories you're writing, because my last copy for the book was due 5 hours after the game ended. I like set my watch for 3:15 a.m. That was when my last bit of copy was done. And it's remarkable. That goes to bed. You wake up the next morning, it's a finished product. It's online. It's in stores that Friday, which is crazy. And now it's in stores all over Tampa. It's online. I got people in the UK. I got people in Europe. I got people all over that have gotten the book all over the world. I go to get gas at the 7-Eleven here in Tampa, and I can keep track. They come in boxes of 12. So I'll take my daughter to get a Slurpee. And as I'm checking out, like, oh, there's only 4 left here. This is good. There were 7 last week. So it's like I'm getting incremental updates on the sales just at my neighborhood 7-Eleven. But it's been a lot of fun. And obviously you went back to Brady. When they signed Brady, it's like for years, it's like you're covering the Bucs and they don't have necessarily a lot of star power. They're not a playoff team. And you'll see all this story on Tom Brady doing this and this and this got, 1 million subscriptions. And you think to yourself, boy, it'd be kind of nice to be able to write about Tom Brady every day. And then you have him and you have nothing to complain about at all. And you got Brady every day. It's been strange because I still haven't all I've known of Tom Brady is what we're doing right now, these video chats and being 20 feet away at practice. I've yet to have a face-to-face, yet to do that awkward, is it a handshake, is it a fist bump? I don't know. So it's strange that way, because a year into our relationship, it's still completely an online thing. But aside from that, again, it's amazing, the amazing national relevance that the team you cover suddenly has. I'm sorry, not national, international, that your team has because Tom Brady's on your team. My wife's grandmother, with 98, 99 years old, knew who Tom Brady was, asked me how Tom Brady's doing, like, you'd ask about Princess Di or Oprah or Tom Cruise or any of these other monolithic, huge celebrities. So no, it's been fun. And obviously you can't do better in a first season than Tom Brady did in bringing a Super Bowl to a team that hadn't been to the playoffs in 13 years. So it's been a fun year.
Yeah, I can imagine. And I can imagine how much work you had to put in to get that book out at the right time. So Brady apart, as someone who's there on the ground in Tampa, what were the keys? What happened that won us that Super Bowl?
Yeah, I think, and we definitely saw this in the last 2 or 3 playoff games, but I mean, that defense really came together so well. I think the headlines, it's easy to write about Tom Brady winning a 7th Super Bowl and Gronkowski catching 2 touchdowns. But if you think about the quarterbacks they beat in the play, and not the first game, nothing against Tyler Heineke, but to go through and to beat Drew Brees and Aaron Rodgers and Pat Mahomes in consecutive games and end their seasons, those are all 3 Super Bowl MVP quarterbacks. I mean, teams that not only won a title, but won an MVP getting a title. So to have the defense do what they did, to get 3 picks against Brees and to keep Aaron Rodgers out of the end zone when that was like in goal to go, Green Bay was like a 90% touchdown offense. And to stop them on the goal line twice, I don't think that field goal at the end helped Green Bay much at all. But this was about the defense. That was about, everybody wrote about 43-year-old Tom Brady and Drew Brees and all these wise old quarterbacks. And it's a bunch of 23-year-old defensive backs that kept making plays. So it was really neat to see how well they handled it. You expect Tom Brady, he's been in the playoffs like 70, 40 games, whatever it is. It's old hat for him. But these kids like Devin White that have never been in the playoffs before, and they jump right in, and it's interceptions and fumble returns and huge plays. I thought that was really neat. And that those were the guys that could have just been completely wide-eyed and deer in the headlights, and they played like they've been there before, and they won a championship.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking to the guys in the front office at Advent Health and saying, really, what are you going to do to immortalise this Super Bowl victory? You've got the fantastic statue from 2002. You're going to have to build a whole extension because that really was a complete roster performance.
Well, it's neat because you think about those moments. It's like we all have seen that Super Bowl video so many times and remember the game. And you think about Brooks kind of pumping up as he went into the end zone. And you think about Gruden with that celebratory kind of windmill he had on the sidelines. And you wonder, like, what are those moments going to be that we remember about this Super Bowl? I mean, obviously the Scotty Miller touchdown in Green Bay, I think will be kind of the Rondé play when we think about plays that kind of set them on their way and really made it happen. And then in the Super Bowl, you think about I think about, Brady with the trophy, and I think about Arians with his mask upside down on the podium, taking it in.
I think we all...
Yeah, the Winfield piece is going to be right up there. So yeah, it's neat to think. I mean, as much as that lobby at $1 at Advent Health has kind of had the same look for about 18 years, they're going to have to do something. They're going to have to bronze these guys or pewter them or whatever you call it when you give them the statue there.
Yeah, it's going to be fantastic when it happens. So, I mean, obviously, it's not just been the Bucs this year. I mean, it is title town, isn't it? With the Lightning and the Rays' fantastic season. Even the Rowdies got to their championship final. So what's it like being in Tampa for the last 12 months?
It's really been neat. And you can't even really fully appreciate it because of the pandemic and nobody's really around as much. But like the boat parades, I mean, I got to do 2 boat parades in 5 months. I lucked out. I kind of helped out with our lighting coverage a little bit, so I knew that team pretty well. And our lighting writer, Joe Smith, couldn't go to the parade. So I'm like, oh, sure, I'll step in. I'll cover the boat parade for you. And that, if you ever get a chance, the media has their own boat. So you're actually out in the water, and you can kind of tell the guy, hey, like, kind of stay close to – with hockey, it was amazing because in hockey, they had fewer boats. So you had one boat that had, like, Stamkos and Hedman. I'm blanking on who the third was on that boat now. But just a really strong boat, right? And they obviously enjoyed themselves quite a bit in that boat parade. We were close enough, and Jay Retcher from WDA and I were lucky, and we were actually up in there's like a second level. I don't want to call it a crow's nest because that sounds like a Pirates of the Caribbean reference, but we were up high and you could see in all directions, which is just beautiful. And we were close enough where at one point, like the Stamkos boat ran out of champagne. And for whatever reason, the media boat had champagne. We were not drinking champagne, but they pulled up close to us and we tossed them. Again, this is when tossing things from boat to boat during a parade wasn't any big deal. Tossed them the champagne and it's like Hedman right away, like immediately pops it and it's just shaking it up. And like we were close enough, we got sprayed by champagne from Victor Hedman, which is just crazy. And then to do it again, you think like, well, that's great. You know, might never see another boat parade again. And you get one 5 months later. And that was I wasn't there for the whole Brady throwing it to Cam Brate, throwing the trophy. We were on the boat, and it was kind of like the whole, like you look at your phone, like I am pretty sure that Tom Brady just threw the Lombardi Trophy from one boat to another. And it's because at the end, and it's like you get down and you see his boat, and sure enough, there it is. And that obviously was like the wildest moment of the whole celebration. There was the catch.
We were watching it live on the TV over here as it was happening. And the number of boats and the people out there was just amazing. It was absolutely packed.
We were just kind of, the media boat for the Bucs parade was more of a water taxi, kind of like a low yellow kind of barge kind of thing almost. They're fine. It's just not some sporting boat like Brady was driving around. And I was at the front of it kind of watching. I had made the comment like, it's amazing that there's so many 100 boats, watercraft, stand-up paddle boards, all moving around, and we hadn't hit anything yet. And in the instant I said that, there's a guy on a jet ski, and I think maybe he thought he lost his phone in the water and it was going to float or something. So he's doing this like, and I'm like, dude, we're going to hit that guy. And bam, hit him. Just like I ran into the guy, and he like takes off and flies off. All this just in the middle. And meanwhile, it's like Bruce Arians is 25 feet over there, and Gronk's over there, and Brady's over there. It's like I said, the parade thing where it's just like going through downtown with ticker tape. It's a cool deal, but it's not as cool as a boat parade is for sure.
Tampa's definitely the place to be for celebrating.
Right.
So, you know, they went all in to win last season, and they did it. They've gone and brought everybody back again, 22 starters, all signed. So how do you think they're going to fare this coming season?
Yeah,
how are they going to keep on track?
Yeah, it's fun. I was just writing that this morning, how amazing it is to bring so much together from a championship team. You just don't see it these days. They've got like 90% of their snaps back on offense and defense, all their specialists. I think they'll be a much better team in the regular season. Again, they were 7-5 with 4 games to go. This will not be a 7-5 team in week 13 this year, I don't think. So it'll be neat in that I feel like, especially with what the Saints have lost and losing Drew Brees and having to make all the cuts they've had to make, I feel like the division is theirs for the taking now. I think everyone will expect them to be NFC South champs. And if they do that, they'll have something they didn't have last year at all, which is a home playoff game. They could very well, if you look at the rest of the NFC, they could very well have a bye to where you get the first weekend off the playoffs. That's kind of been what Tom Brady has always known, is the playoffs, going through his home stadium and getting a week off, and none of this at Washington, at Green Bay, at New Orleans. No, they come to you. So I think, again, I feel like the success of any Tom Brady team is going to be determined in January. So it's just going to come down to what they can do given that opportunity. But I think if everything lines up like we think it should, this should be a team that hosts a playoff game in January. And they won't have a Super Bowl at Raymond James Stadium, but they could have NFC Championship game here if they do things right. And then from there, you know, it's anybody's guess. But no, they have everything in place. It's hard to duplicate the desire to win a first championship as a player. So if you have a room where if you have 53 players and like 40 of them just got a ring last year, it's hard to be as fired up. As much as you want to repeat, it's not the same deal as like, I could use another ring, that'd be nice. So I think it'd be cool if they can get a guy. We talk about Larry Fitzgerald as someone that could come here. And if you can get a guy, and if all Larry Fitzgerald does is be that guy in the room where it's like, God, Larry's been in the league for 17 years and he's never won a Super Bowl. I want to win a ring for Larry Fitzgerald. I want him to know that same joy that I had last year. It's cruel if he finishes his career and the only Super Bowl memory he has is in Tampa, losing to the Steelers and Bruce Arians. So, like I said, I think they've got to duplicate that want and that chemistry and that desire, but the talent is going to be there. They're going to have every bit the talent they had when they won a Super Bowl this past year.
That's a really great thought, because obviously going into last year, we had the likes of Mike Evans, Bray, David, people that have put a lot of effort into the Bucs in for years and never seen the playoffs. So to bring in that motivation.
I remember feeling so happy for Mike and for Levante and for Will Golston, just that they got to go to a playoff game. Like, check it off the list. It's got to be nice not to have to hear about, gosh, Levante, it'd be nice to go to the playoffs, 9 years in Tampa. And they go ahead and forget playoffs. They go ahead and check it all off the list. So, yeah, like I said, it's tough once you have that. I mean, just Brady can tell you that there's plenty of motivation to win more than one. But I think it's got to be different. I think you've got to kind of find another level of fire in you to do it again when you know that every week they're not your opponent isn't trying to beat some 7-5 team. They're trying to take out the champs, where if all you do in your season is beat the Super Bowl champs, you're sitting there like 6-10, but beat the defending Super Bowl champs in week 9. You can hang your hat on that, and you'll deal with that all year long. It won't stop until your season is over.
Excellent. So we've got the draft coming up as well.
Yes.
What do you think the Bucs are going to do in that? Are we looking at bringing in a young quarterback to sit behind and learn from Brady? What do you think we're going to focus on there?
I don't think so. I can see why people want to have that next guy in line, especially if you can give him like a year to just learn from Brady and just soak in exactly everything he does and the way he approaches the game. But I think they want to win a game this year. I think they want to win a Super Bowl again. And you think about Green Bay. Okay, that's what Green Bay did last year. They went and they got Jordan Love. They got the next guy to be in line for Aaron Rodgers. And I remember thinking in that NFC Championship game that if they had used that first-round pick on Antoine Winfield or a pass rusher, the guy that makes one play, if he gets one turnover in a one-score NFC Championship game, yeah, you don't have a guy that's going to take over for Aaron Rodgers, but you might be in the Super Bowl just the same. So I feel like given that win now that, hey, our quarterback in Tampa is going to be 44, the coach is going to be 69, you can't have more of a push your chips to the middle of the table feel than what they have. And even though it'd be in the franchise's big picture best interest to have somebody in waiting, the other problem is that if you draft a guy this year and Brady has a ton of fun and he's back next year and likes it and he's back at 46, now you have some guy who's sat on the bench for 3 years and wants to get traded like a Garoppolo or something, and he winds up being somebody else's quarterback because Tom Brady just doesn't want to retire. So I think they could, but I think it's probably more likely they go D-line, they go outside linebacker. They take some of those positions where they really haven't put a high draft pick in a couple of years, and they get younger. I think that's what they'll do.
Got a couple of questions from the members, Greg, if you would. Okay, so first question then, Greg. This is from Dom, a.k.a. the Charmer. How has your way of working had to change due to the COVID-19 pandemic?
It's a lot. I was just telling you that I haven't been in the building at One Buc Place at Advent Health in more than a year, which is strange because that's pretty much my office. I mean, we have a media room, or we used to have a media room there. I think the defensive backs took the media room, if I understand it correctly, this past year. So it's different. It's almost all online. It's a lot of Zoom interviews like this. You definitely miss the in-person interaction with coaches, with players, with staff. You're a little bit farther removed. I might as well be there where you guys are covering this team, the way things are. But you kind of take what you have. I'm hoping that this fall we'll have a little bit more open locker room, in person, hopefully full capacity stadiums here in the States for NFL football. So no, it's just a lot more learning to communicate like a lot of jobs are, kind of via remote and online, and just trying to make the most of that. Lots of phone conversations, lots of Zoom calls. But again, it's kind of like what you have to do to make sure everybody's safe. And you think about all the success the NFL had to get through an entire season pretty much on schedule. I got tested daily at One Buc for 4 months. I mean, from July to Thanksgiving, I was down there every day getting a swab up the nose to make sure I was safe to get in there. And, it's just like any job. It's like you just kind of have to adjust a little bit to what they want you to do.
Okay, that's great. This is from Graham. What for you are the most fulfilling parts of the job? And I guess you've already answered the second part about, are there any particular frustrations?
Yeah, there's not a ton of frustrations with my job. I'm covering sports for a living. I can't really complain too much. You think about everything going on in the world right now. We got, got frontline doctors and nurses that are risking their lives every day. If I sit here and complain about my wireless connection or something, you look pretty weak for that. So no, I don't have much in the way of complaints. With any reporter. You want to have more access. You want to have more time with players and coaches and stuff like that, but nothing that you could really get upset about. In terms of most fulfilling parts, this is a lot of it. Just the interaction with people is a lot of fun. I mean, I feel like sports are something that bring a lot of joy to people for the most part. They can bring a lot of frustration at the same time, but to see a season like this, both with the Lightning and with the Bucs, it's a really cool thing when you see guys that you've known for a decade and you see them in basically the happiest days of their lives, at least professionally speaking. So to see them have that and be able to enjoy that and have all their hard work pay off for them is really neat to see. It's like you kind of cover the team the same whether they win or lose, but it's more fun to be around a team that's winning and is happy and can savor a championship like this. So most fulfilling parts, I would start with just the engagement with fans and being able to interact with readers and hear what their questions and their thoughts are. But yeah, I mean, getting to cover Super Bowl in the city you live in is a cool deal too.
I'll bet. Final question from our members. This is from Pete. So which NFL players other than Bucs players do you particularly admire?
That's a good question. It's funny, there's not like a whole lot, in terms of, admire is a good word, because I don't know that you really root for a lot of players or anything like that. There's such amazing class acts around the league. You think about J.J. Watt and everything he's done in Houston and now what he'll have a chance to do in Arizona. Just a ton of time and effort and millions of dollars when Houston went through what they went through last year. He was such a big part of helping them get through it. There really are a lot of good guys in this league. You look around the whole league, and there's some that you only see from afar. There's some that you get to deal with here and there. I mean, Drew Brees in New Orleans was such a class act. And did you go back all the way to post-Katrina in New Orleans and what he meant to the city of New Orleans and what it did for that city to have a team and a championship to kind of help lift them through some really hard times. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to imagine an NFL without Drew Brees in it, and that's what Bucs are very, very happy to have. Don't get me wrong, but in terms of good guys, he's right there near the top of the list as well.
That's great. Thank you very much indeed.
Well, I think you'll agree that was a pretty fantastic interview with Greg Auman. Thanks very much for him joining us today. Really enjoyed it. Make sure you get out there, get Champa Bay book that is produced. It's a brilliant coverage of the whole season and the Super Bowl. So thanks again, Greg, for joining us. So a quick update where we are with the Bucs UK club at the minute. Membership's going fantastically well. Renewals are flying in. We're pretty close to the 450 mark, which is just amazing. So thank you everybody that's taken time to renew. And if you haven't yet, get your renewals in, because we're up for another fantastic season and you do not want to miss out. We've got draft competitions coming up and all through the year that we're going to have more and more competitions running for you all. So make sure you do join. We're looking at socials. Hopefully we'll all be able to get out and about sometime later this year. So we'll be planning our AGM shortly and we'll be getting in touch to tell you about that and how you can come along. And we're looking at other social events around the country as well. So there's going to be great opportunity for you all to come and meet up and join us in the flesh. We've loved meeting you all on screen, but it'd be so good to actually come and actually see everybody in person. It just seems like so long since this happened. So get on the forum, keep on the forum. We're leading up to the draft, so there's still competitions to be picked up as we get there. So make sure you keep engaging with us and we look forward to speaking to you all soon.
Okay, so we'd just like to once again thank Greg Auman for his time today in what is an absolutely massively busy time of year for him during the free agency with a lot of signings and so forth going on. Once again, don't forget to like and comment on this video and subscribe to the channel. Click that notification bell so you get the reminders when we upload these videos. And a quick thank you again to Gary and to David for joining me, and we'll see you again for our next episode.